Thanks everyone for joining the WIN meeting today. Today we are doing something a little bit, well, actually a lot of bit different. We're going to take you all on a kind of a field trip. We're in this middle of a series about generosity. And so I thought instead of having Darren and I just sit and talk, and we're talking so much about this anyway. And really the point of doing this podcast was to do something different than what we experience on Sundays. And so today what we're going to do is actually go through the church. We're going to take you guys on a little trip, and we are going to talk to some people, and we're going to ask a pretty simple question of just asking them to tell us a story of something generous that somebody did for them that was impactful. Not something generous that they did themselves for somebody else, but telling stories and hearing about the impact that generosity has had on people's lives. So look forward to what we're going to learn today. None of this is planned. We'll see what we get. It might be very interesting. It might be really boring. We'll find out. So let's go take a little ride. Well, hello, Miss Deb.
Well, hello there. Good morning.
Today's podcast in the office day.
I read about that.
Do you want to tell us a little story? Do you have a great? Sure. Here, use this microphone.
Okay. A family that I knew really not very well at the time allowed me to live with them for over a year.
Yeah.
When I was going through my divorce, it was a very, very difficult time.
Yeah.
And they just said, come on, here's our spare bedroom. And it meant the world to me and allowed me to get back on my feet, and by far the most generous thing ever.
Yeah, that's awesome, because it's not necessarily, you know, we think of generosity in lots of ways, money mostly, but something like opening up your home is such a huge thing. And
yes.
Especially to somebody in need in a time like that.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
And I kind of invaded, and
sure. A year's a long time.
It is.
Yeah.
And
that's like life, you know, you're really doing life together at that point, yeah.
Yeah. God had a plan for it, and there was a reason for it. So
well, that's awesome.
It was wonderful.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great job. All right. Who's next? Who's hiding? What's up, man?
What's going on?
It's podcast time. Did you get the email?
No.
Okay, so I just need you to tell a little story about something generous that somebody's done for you at some point.
So,
Hold that.
yeah. When I first started going to this church, there was some medical issues that I was having, and I was in the hospital for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, funds were tight.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you know, and so...
You didn't get the huge signing bonus?
Right, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I was just part-time at the time, you know, so like it was, yeah, there was no signing bonus.
You're right.
So I remember coming into Darren's office after I was out of the hospital, and Darren handed me an envelope, and there was enough money in there to cover like half of what we were going to spend on the hospital visit.
Wow.
And it was I was in the emergency room.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a cheap visit.
Yeah.
And it just said, from a friend.
Wow.
And Darren wouldn't tell me who it was, obviously. And so like that right there, that was huge. That was big, you know, because you don't really think about, you know, you're not really thinking about all the medical expenses until afterwards, right?
Oh, and then it's real. Yeah.
And to have just some random person who knew the situation, just come up and do that, and not directly, because they didn't want to, to know who it was, and give Darren that envelope to give to me.
Oh, that's amazing. And you were new, so it's not like
new. I was new on staff, and maybe 4 years in to the church. You know? So just, like, it was crazy. You know, like, who knew me that well to do that for me?
Right. Well, and that's whoever that was shows that lifestyle of generosity. And we do talk about generosity in lots of different ways, but money is really one of them. I mean, and it's a big thing. Like, and you're in a situation like that when you don't have it.
Right.
It can be like overwhelming and just miserable and wow. Well, that's an amazing story.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I remember going home and like telling my wife, and we were just sitting there crying, and we were just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, this is just God showing up one more time.
That's awesome.
So it was pretty awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, man.
All right. Yeah. All right. So we're just looking to hear from you. What is something generous somebody did for you that was like really impactful?
Yeah. Well,
hold on. Actually, before you start, because you haven't actually been on the podcast yet. So I just want to introduce Greg for everybody who might not know. This is Greg Rupley. He's our discipleship minister. And anyway, so yeah. Okay. Now that that's happened,
yeah,
go ahead and tell your story.
Well, first of all, I'm mad I haven't been on the podcast.
It's coming, I
swear. Sure. No, I've enjoyed them. They've been great. Hey, so I've been in ministry almost 30 years. I know you've been in ministry a lot of years too. But back maybe year 7 or so.
Okay, long time.
Long time ago, I was engaged to Kim, wasn't married yet. This is 2001.
Okay.
Things were really, really tight financially.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working for Family Life for, $11 an hour, something like that, and trying to pay rent and everything else.
Yeah.
Right now, Whataburger pays more.
Yeah.
And out of the blue, a really good friend from high school gives me a call. And maybe we had talked since high school once or twice a year.
Okay.
That kind of guy, but phenomenal guy. He was in the Air Force. And he calls me up and he says, I got a deal for you.
Okay.
And I was like, I didn't know I was looking for a deal.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to sell you my old Chevy Blazer. And I was like, I didn't know I was in the market for a car.
Or had the money for one.
Right. But he was like, no, I think this is a deal that you will not be able to turn down. So I was really intrigued. He's like, I'm upgrading my vehicle. Things are going well for me. Just got a promotion, and they're not giving me hardly anything for this, 6-7-year-old Chevy Blazer.
The trade-in or whatever.
And he said, I just started thinking, who do I know in my life who's making a difference for God can I give this to?
Yeah.
And he's like, but listen, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to sell it to you.
Okay.
I was like, well, still, there's no money for that.
Right.
He's like, do you have $1?
Wow.
He sold me that Chevy Blazer for $1.
Wow.
This is 2001.
Yeah.
And it's the most generous, transformative thing. And let me tell you what that did for Kim and I.
Yeah.
Ever since, it's caused us to live with open hands.
Right. Because of that one huge thing that somebody else did for you.
Right.
You're now compelled, when able, when called, when whatever, to live the same way.
Yeah. It transformed us right there at the beginning of our marriage, and we'll never be the same.
And what a time, right? Like to do that, like you just said, for your marriage, not just something happened to you as a couple.
Right.
And so that changed the trajectory to whatever level of how you guys approached your, that's a great story.
We weren't even quite married yet. We were engaged, and honestly, Kim's probably thinking, oh boy, what did I sign up for and everything else? And then she sees right there, even before we get married, how God is faithful and how he is going to provide.
And he's going to take care of us. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, great story.
Thanks,
Thank you,
brother.
Greg. And I look forward to having you on for a real conversation.
We'll see.
It'll happen soon. Thank you. Who's in the student office? Anybody? Oh, Caleb's in the student office. What's up, Caleb? You got time to tell a little generosity story?
No.
Okay, well, can you spare 5 minutes? Just something that somebody has done for you that was impactful. Is something, not something you've done for somebody else, but something that somebody's done for you, maybe, that was generous in a way.
You in Australia or Haiti?
Man, I'd love to hear about it. So for those who don't know Caleb is on our student ministry team. He's also on our maintenance team. You're on lots of teams. but mostly for as far as ministry is concerned, ministry piece of what we do here, you're on the student team, right?
Yes.
So, but in your past life, not that long ago, you were a missionary in Haiti and Australia. So,
Yes.
one or both? I don't know.
Okay.
I'm down for 2 stories from Caleb.
Okay. I'll take 2 short stories.
Okay.
First, Australia. When I went there for 3 months during my college time, preaching stuff, studying with people.
Yeah.
There was a family that invited me into their home that figured I was a Yank, and so came down. Went to their house. Had no idea. Just met these people.
Yeah.
They lived in a ratty old house, holes in the walls, like couldn't repair anything. Got there, was like, okay. For dinner that night, their 2 kids, the dad went out back while mom was talking to me in the kitchen, and they slaughtered one of their 2 lambs
Wow.
just in honor of me, because they had nothing else to give me. And that was their one source of income.
Wow.
And they had to figure out other ways of doing that. That was the first time in my life I'd ever been honored and blessed.
My goodness.
In such a big way.
How did that make you feel? Like, yeah, how did you handle that? I mean, you're pretty young at that point.
Yeah,
like,
I was 20 years old, so I didn't know what to do with it. I wept that night when they went to bed.
Yeah.
I was just, all I could do was thank them profusely.
Yeah.
I was able to raise some money and actually leave them a big chunk to
Awesome.
bless them when I left.
Well, and what a great indicator. We just talked to Greg about how when somebody does something generous for you, how that makes you want to be generous back or to others or whatever.
Yes.
It sounds like that's true for you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So some similar story in Haiti. I get there.
Okay.
Some of the poorest people in this hemisphere, in the Western
Right.
Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And one of my first trips, I go on this scouting. They were going to go show me a water well that used to be dug that's been demolished by the locals. So I'm out. We're sweating, walking miles of mountain terrain and stuff. And our translator that's with me goes and wants to buy me. We come across this lady with a cart that had some semi-lukewarm like Cokes and stuff
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking from my end going, here's a really poor guy. I know this guy doesn't make anything.
Yeah.
It's not right for him to buy me something.
Right.
And so 2 guys that were with me denied him, and there's this shame that fell over his face that I saw and went, I'll take one.
Yeah.
And the joy that he had, and it set us off on a course of friendship and brotherhood.
Yeah.
From then going, he was able to do something because there's nothing else he could do.
Yeah.
And buy me a simple Coke that was, less than $1 in our thing, but that was worth a lot of time for him to work just to pay for that.
Yeah.
So in a different way, giving out of the poverty, to somebody that was coming from, a lot thicker back then. But yeah, there was just an honoring and a blessing that it came from God, and it helped humble and bring balance to our relationship.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Keep doing actual work. Sam's really excited to see us.
I'm excited for this.
I bet.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
okay.
your email. I was like, I feel like that's directed at me.
It's directed at everybody. So yeah, just a little story about how being generous, or somebody being generous to you, has been impactful.
Okay. Well, I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we jump in, I need to introduce you to everybody. So Samantha Burmaster is our accountant. Is that what we call you? I don't know. Finance person. She's our money person. She keeps us from all going to jail, which is a really big deal. So anyway, we're interrupting actual important work to just talk about stuff. But anyway, so Sam, as many call her, Samantha, you have a story about generosity.
Well, I was thinking about that, and so I don't have like this one specific huge thing. It's just that the constant generosity in small ways, like a meal if we're moving, or just showing up to take care of my dogs if I go out of town, or just people showing up to walk that walk in life with you. So.
Being supported just all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Which is A huge blessing.
Well, and that's part of the whole generosity lifestyle, right? It's not just about picking 1 or 2 or 3 things throughout a year to be like hugely generous in, which is awesome, but being just open-handed all the time. And when somebody says, hey, can you pick up my kids? Can you run a meal? Can you whatever? You just say yes. And you're generous with your time, with whatever you have. And everybody can do that. Not everybody has tons of money to be able to, do whatever.
Like the big thing that happens. Right. But yeah, the little things consistently, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Absolutely. All right, we're gonna let's take the elevator down, because a lot of people might not know on our field trip, church has an elevator, and I don't normally take it, but since we're showing you guys the inner workings of our church offices, we'll ride down on an elevator instead of going down the stairs. I also get a little out of breath going down the stairs, I'm not in the good shape as I used to be, so we don't need the next question be all like. It's only 1 floor though. Whenever I bring my kids to the church, they love riding the elevator. Do your kids love riding the elevator, Chris? It never ends. His kids are not as young as my kids. Now let's see who can we. I feel like the kids team is hiding from us. Actually, I know they're hiding from us just looking around. Hey, Tab.
Oh, hey.
Guess what you get to do?
I'm literally just reading your email right now.
Oh, good. So you're totally prepared.
I am not.
Well,
prepared.
can you come up with something-ish? And, just, it doesn't have to be any, the most, like we talked about last week.
Right.
Just time somebody would, here, this is a microphone.
Here's the microphone.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, so here's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty powerful in that we are actually living in that moment right now of someone's generosity to us. Our move here to Texas was in large part made possible how the Lord has worked things out for us to live with people. So we had, when we first moved down here the first month, we had a family that took us in, my husband, myself, and our 3 teenagers, and let us live with them for a month. And now we've kind of moved out of their house and are now living with another lady from church here.
Wow.
Until we kind of figure out where we want to get started. So our family of 5 has been graciously welcomed into different people's homes to live, and
that's huge.
And while we make this transition, that's a huge act of generosity. That
opening your home, your food, your
space,
utilities, your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
It's been awesome.
That's very cool.
So we're just grateful.
Yeah.
We're grateful.
Well, thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Oh, good. I found them.
Oh, crap. You found it.
Oh, and you're all in one spot.
We're all working.
I know. I keep going.
We do that.
I keep going to everybody, and then when they're done, I just say, okay, go back to doing actual work now.
No, we are actually working.
Okay, well, great. So do you guys have 3 minutes to stop and tell a couple stories?
Yes.
Ish.
Who
would like?
Have to stop, or we have to.
Well, you just that's fine. You don't have to stop. If you want to work and talk at the same time, that's cool. Here, you got to hold this though. Okay. All right. So this is Carla. If you haven't watched the podcast that she was on early on in the season.
I've been on 2.
This is true, the Easter one as well.
They were both about Easter, actually.
It's true, we did cover Easter.
Yeah.
This one's not about Easter, though. I mean, it could be if you want to tell a story about Easter.
It's not.
But okay. All right. So a story of something that's generous that somebody's done for you.
Just one?
However many you want.
There are hundreds.
Pick one and see where it goes.
Yeah. I can think of one specific one. This happened, I don't know, a couple years ago. I don't know if people know this. I'm just going to say it. But children's ministry is not a career where you make a lot of money.
What?
I know.
Oh my, breaking news, people. right here, right now, children's ministry in a relatively small church will not get you rich.
That's true.
Okay.
True story.
Riveting stuff.
I know. I mean, they can attest as well.
No,
Yes.
all joking aside, it's true. It is
true.
a sacrifice. Yes.
It is, and that's not why
Yeah.
we do it. We do it for
Of course, but it genuinely is not. You're not going to make a ton of money.
right.
Yep.
And I'm not married, so I don't have like a second income
Double
in
income,
my family.
right.
So
Yep.
it makes things are challenging.
Yeah.
And especially in Katy, it's a little challenging. So anyway, all that to say,
Yeah.
I needed new tires for my car.
Oh yeah.
Desperately. And I have an old car. I've had it forever. It's paid off or whatever, but my tires were in bad shape. And things were a little tight on money that particular time.
And this is like COVID time still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So everything's intense.
Everything was intense. And I was going to put it on a credit card because that's what you do when you have to have things like that.
Yep.
And some very, very generous friends of mine, I'm going to go ahead and say their names. It was Tim and Chantel Salas.
Of course.
Said, we're going to buy your tires for you.
That's amazing.
And they bought tires for my car.
That's awesome.
Which, they didn't have to do that.
No.
And they, he works in ministry too. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's not like they're, overflowing with money, but
Yeah.
it was very generous and very kind.
That's awesome.
And I had nothing to give in return other
Yeah.
than my friendship.
How did that make you feel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I felt a little guilty because I was like, they don't have to do that. But I also felt like very loved and like valued. And I don't have family around here. So like they're my family. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Your church family takes care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right
Yeah.
there. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, hello, Jen. I know how much you love this. So Jen's not been on the podcast yet. So for here, you need to hold this.
Okay.
That's a microphone. It's not going to hurt anything, I swear. So Jen has joined our team. When she joined? Like a year ago?
Yeah. A year ago, yeah.
Yeah.
About a year ago.
She takes care of all the babies and little ones. So she's a very, very special person on our team. Carla mentioned there's not a lot of money in children's ministry, and Jen is also tackling maybe one of the most difficult portions of the children's ministry in keeping screaming babies happy. So anyway, we love having Jen on our team. But so do you have just like a quick little something that somebody did somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way?
Angelica.
Yeah.
She's so
Chavez.
kind. Angelica Chavez, sweetest, kindest heart.
Yeah.
But when I was sick with COVID, she made me a basket of all the things to help me when I wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
And drove it up here. And, she's always constantly helping me.
That's
And,
awesome.
Yeah. She's just always serving and,
Consistently generous with time, with care, with love,
yes,
with energy.
all the things.
Yes.
All the things, even when, they're going through a hard time or what, it doesn't matter. She's always giving.
Yeah, open-handed life. Yeah. Well, thank you. I know you hate talking.
Yes.
So we're going to move on quickly.
Trying to leave the room.
I told you they were trying to hide. I said it upstairs. The kids team was hiding.
Really working.
You are working. And I appreciate you guys working as we talk and talking as you work. So this is Nikki. You've not been on the podcast yet, either, have you?
No.
Well, that's going to happen soon. So Nikki is the third member of the kids team. You manage all the 4th and 5th graders.
I do.
You also, we've talked about you on the podcast because you're also one of the co-leaders of the women's ministry.
All good things, I hope.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It was Tiffany, so you take that up
No,
with her. But
I know. Yeah. I do actually watch the podcast.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. And yes, good stuff.
Anyway, so any thoughts, stories about?
Yeah, there's like a bunch.
Sure.
My family in the last, just a little more than a year ago, went through really kind of two hard, really big losses. And specifically during the time that my father-in-law was sick, George and I were at home taking care of him in full-time hospice, and he required a lot of care.
Yeah.
And it was draining and it was hard. And George that year had ventured out and started his own business, and we weren't really sure how to
Great
make
timing
ends
for all this.
meet
Right.
with the children's minister's salary.
Yeah.
And so anyways, all that to say, we never stopped tithing during that time, which was brave and a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But I remember specifically probably 2 or 3 times throughout November and December getting exactly what we had given that month to the Lord and tithe back in gifts from
amazing.
Almost anonymous donors. I could cry.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I tell people all the time, the sense that makes in today's world is zero.
Right, it doesn't.
Like, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But God just, like, you know, my kids didn't miss a beat for Christmas that year. We got to spend it with his dad. We never weren't able to make our bills, and God just provided. So, it was gifts from our church family in big and small ways, and so that sticks out to me big time. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
All right, kids team, you are superstars. So sorry for bothering you. Keep doing.
Sorry, you're not sorry.
Well, I feel a little bad, but you all did great. So. No, those aren't our people. Those were good stories. All right, let's see if. Let's take a walk outside. Our interns, Carson and Braden, are out doing some yard work. So let's go bother them while they're doing actual, like, human labor work, and see what kind of stories we hear from the young men. Hold
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
So this is Braden. Braden is one of our interns. You work mostly with student ministry.
Yes.
But also then, like, on our maintenance team. Right now, today, you're doing actual physical work, which is awesome.
I mean, depending on who you ask.
You have the appearance of doing physical work.
Hey, that's a little more accurate.
So today for the podcast, we are just talking to all the staff about some stories of maybe something that somebody did for you that was just really impactful with their generosity. Anything comes to mind as far as I don't know, somebody serving you in some way, shape, or form?
Generosity at all staff, like somebody coming in and helping
it can
out,
be anything in your life whatsoever. Just it's
interesting.
just something that's ever happened to you that was impactful.
Man,
something that sticks out.
You know, a lot of actually a little bit ago, I'm not doing too well with money.
You're not making tons of money as an unpaid intern at a church?
Absolutely not.
Huh.
And
that's crazy news.
With that being said, I had some of my friends help pay for my lunch, but more than just.
Sorry, my GoPro battery's low. It's
no,
fine.
that's
Keep
okay.
talking.
It just, you know, they paid for me and they continue to pay for me. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty amazing God's generosity that comes into life and everything.
Well, yeah, and it might seem like a small thing.
Yeah.
But being able to still live those parts of your life while you're serving, and like I said, I mean, it's not like you're getting paid right now.
Right.
Not getting tons of money but God's still taking care of you in those. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
That's really great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Braden.
Thanks for having me on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do some more later. Maybe in a longer time that you're not in the middle of actually doing work.
In the middle about to, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know where Carson is?
Yeah, he's inside.
Yeah, he is.
But
here he is. So we're taking the podcast on the road today.
Okay.
And so we're just asking all the staff people about some stories, maybe that sometimes somebody was generous to them, something impactful that happened. Here, there's a microphone. Just hold that. You know how microphones work, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So do you have anything that comes to mind, maybe something generous that somebody's done for you? Doesn't have to be like the most, whatever, just something that kind of sticks out.
Mm-hmm. Does it have to be someone on staff?
No, not at all. Just in life. Just anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anything at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
I totally have one.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. When was this? Last August, I received a gift to someone had paid a full trip for me to go to Arizona to just seek some counseling and a lot of just trying to get back on track with God.
Yeah.
And so they paid for the whole thing. I had a cabin to myself. I had 2 counselors that week. And so the whole time, whether it was the meals, whether it was just the time I had there, even just like, things in the cabin just to, keep me alive there.
Right.
It was awesome. So I had the full thing funded, and it meant a lot to me because it was totally unexpected. I had never asked for it, but
But it's something you needed.
Yeah, it was something
it's
something that I didn't think I needed, but it was something that was just given to me, and I was like, oh wow, this is, I never thought that God would provide something like that. So those people really, really impacted me with their generosity.
That is awesome. That's great stuff. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, go back to doing actual work now.
All right, can do.
Okay, bye. Lights off. Darren is in his office.
Oh my God.
Hello, Darren.
Hi, how are you?
Do you have a minute to tell maybe a generosity story for the podcast?
Sure.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So here's the microphone.
Thank you.
Here, hold on.
Should I hold this?
Yeah. Just like here. Just whatever. Yeah. We're just getting stories of something generous that somebody else has done for you.
Okay.
Or maybe if you have more than one, that's great. Like, you don't have to just pick one.
Okay. So I'll tell you one that comes to my mind right away.
Okay.
So I have a friend in ministry. Mark is his name. He's a pastor in California.
Yeah.
And he came to visit about a year or so ago.
Okay.
And we had a great visit. And we were just talking about kind of like, life without Amanda and the challenges of that and kids and all that kind of stuff. And I think in the course of that, there's lunches every day and all this school stuff. We got laundry running out our ears and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff, Yeah. And so a week or so after his visit, he said, hey, I got a little something for you. I got a little surprise for you. He said, every Friday, you bag up your laundry and put it on your porch. My church is going to pay for a service to come and get your laundry and do your laundry for you every week.
Wow.
And that has not stopped. Every week, I bag up our laundry, put it out on the porch, and the service comes and picks it up. They would bring it back the next day on hangers and bagged up.
That's amazing.
And it's good to go.
Wow.
And so he has a fund at his church that they use just to bless people that are in ministry.
Yeah.
And which is amazing. And I'm telling you, like every week, I feel the blessing of that, of that generous, thoughtful gesture.
That's awesome.
It makes such a difference.
That's amazing.
So that's one of the things that came right to mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's incredible. Something so personally impactful.
Yeah.
And yet, it's not hard, right? Like it's kind of an easy thing to come to, but yet the intentionality of that and the fact that it's gone on so long and taking care of you for that, so that is incredibly generous. That's really cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
God's people are the best.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome.
I'll take the microphone, unless you want it.
No, I don't need it.
Okay. Yeah. We can just record like whatever is happening today. And
that'd be very exciting. Wow, that would just go crazy on that.
Oh, Chris is here. Hey, Chris. You ready to be famous?
Am I ready to be famous?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is when it comes to generosity. After my car accident, some of my best friends, husband and wife at St. John's, they went above and beyond and took care of me on getting me back into town from out of state.
Wow.
I actually had to be in my brother's wedding, and he took care of the ambulance ride, getting me back, and his wife would come over and push me down the street in my wheelchair down to get my hair cut.
Yeah.
And they just took me out to movies and stuff like that.
Can you tell me a little, like, I don't know the story, like, about the accident or whatever, like, when was that?
That was during Hurricane Rita. We were in Louisiana, and I was on a back road and got into a car accident.
Wow.
And it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But
so you were like in a wheelchair for a while? Like
I was in a wheelchair for about 7 months and on crutches for another 3 months.
Wow.
So.
Man, and those people just basically
they
got you through life during that time.
Yeah, they were always around. May not have been every day, but they were around quite a bit. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Definitely. Cool. So for everybody who doesn't know, Chris is our lead maintenance guy. He takes care of facilities, maintenance, operations, whatever. Basically fixes everything that's broke and makes everything that's not broke better. So appreciate you being on, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
I appreciate it. No problem.
All right. Let you do real work again. So, talking to all the staff.
Yes.
About a little story about generosity. Have you got something for us?
Yeah, actually, since being here at Current, I have a plethora of generous stories. Between just countless showing up in my house with what I assumed would be 2 guys, and instead it was 8 guys moving us into our house in under. Had to have been a world record, 2 hours.
That was crazy fast. We got a lot done.
It was insanely fast, all the way up to Darren so lovingly dropping off a pie at our house the day of our anniversary, unbeknownst to us. Don't know how he heard about it. And then on top of that, we had a lovely couple, Jenny and Dean, who sent us a dinner that, again, we didn't expect to get. We expected, I don't even remember having the conversation with her about our anniversary happening, but she somehow found out and heard and sent us a wonderful dinner, and I never cooked steak before in my life, and so that was fun too. I got to work on my steak cooking skills. So what I can say is that Current has been all that this sermon series has been, which is just nothing but generosity to me and my family. It's been truly, truly amazing to see.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
you're
stories.
welcome.
All right, let's go find Tiffany. You're the only one left.
I know. I need to answer your question.
You do.
Yes.
Into this microphone.
Okay, hello.
Hi. You can hold it. Otherwise, it's going to be weird if I just hold this in your face.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, something generous somebody's done for you, just somewhere over the course of your life. Something that sticks out.
Lots of people have been really generous to me, but I think that the most generous thing, or something that's really generous that somebody has done for me, is giving me different opportunities. Just giving me opportunities that allow me to do something that I know God is pushing me towards, even though it is kind of scary sometimes. This particular job that I have is one of those opportunities where
that's one way to look at it.
I mean, that was very generous in the sense that I don't know that I had all the qualifications or all the things, but was an opportunity to serve the kingdom, and it was, and it still is sometimes very, very scary, but also
like right now when we walk in your office with cameras.
Exactly.
And
but
it's
also
somewhat scary, just a little bit.
But also, just it's a very generous thing.
All right. So before we wrap up, Chris, we're going to trade for a second here. I'm going to take this. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to hold the camera. So, for everyone who doesn't know, this is Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey is our production director. He takes care of everything technologically. I don't know. What do you do, Chris?
Pretty much anything that goes in the auditorium and every other little room that's around here. IT, tech-based, you name it. So
yeah, all of it.
All of it.
Yeah. So anyway, Chris is normally the one who's producing our podcast as we do. So you hear me reference him all the time, and you see his hat pop in every now and then to fix a microphone or something like that. But anyway, he's the one that makes everything roll. So Chris, do you have a little story about generosity maybe you want to share?
Yeah. So I've been here a little bit over a year, and it was within 4 or 5 months of being on staff here. That we were, as a staff, we took a day away just to kind of get away from the office, and we were talking through and envisioning and brainstorming a whole bunch of stuff. And
unbeknownst to a lot of us, the elders of our church were, as always, they're always praying for us, always thinking about us. And lo and behold, we had these envelopes sitting around in our little tables and stuff. And, I didn't bother to open it then because I just figured it was some sort of thank you note or something like that, because that's what we were talking about at the time. But when I got home, I had opened it up and it was a bonus check, literally just kind of out of the blue. And one of those things where God knew at that point that I needed a little bit of extra to cover some things with my family and whatnot. And it was right on the money, the perfect amount. And, the elders, like I said, have always been very, very generous here. Yeah. They're always praying for us, always thinking about us. Yeah. And that was huge for me because I hadn't even been on staff 6 months. Right. And they decided that they were, not just me, but everybody, to be able to do that. And they're always doing that.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. All right, I'm going to give you this back now.
Okay. Trade.
There you go. So lots of great stories about generosity, and I'm going to wrap up today's podcast by telling one as well. And similar to what a lot of the folks have mentioned, there's lots of things. I've been in ministry for a long time, grew up a pastor's kid, and so I do have lots of stories of times people were generous in lots of different ways. But one really huge, and it was not just one thing, but it was around one time. It was a couple years ago. My dad was really, really sick with COVID, near death. And so we overnight threw stuff in the truck and drove to Michigan way too fast, but God protected us. And my family and everything were there. And but our life group was just so awesome in taking care of my family. And they sent us like a DoorDash, Uber Eats card thing with tons of money on it to get us food while we were up there. They came to my house because we were gone for about a month, and they came to my house. They mowed my lawn. They took care of my stuff. We had a friend who was taking care of our dog. And it's the kind of stuff that money was involved, time was involved, work was involved. All those things were such a big deal. I didn't ask for any of it, didn't expect any of it. And I've been on the side of giving generosity lots of times, of helping people in those situations, and that's always really special. But when somebody takes care of you in that way, and more so takes care of your family in that way, it's just really different. And there's so much more impact that's had out of those experiences. So something I'll never forget for sure. And it really showed me in a new light that value of generosity in a lot of ways. So I think it's pretty awesome after having all these little conversations today. We hit pretty much everybody. Josh wasn't here today, so maybe he'll be here later. We'll try to get to him. But as a staff, as we just went around, and like I said, none of this was planned. I sent a little email this morning, just a little warning, so that when we popped in their office with their camera, they weren't completely freaked out. But in all, those were just things that people just remembered right off the cuff. And that's all to go back to say, like I said, we're in this series of generosity. We're trying to, I know, Darren knows, our whole staff knows that giving series, whatever you want to call them, are not always the most popular. It's not the stuff that we always love to talk about. And it can seem very self-serving. I just really hope people understand and grasp that the goal of these conversations, of these sermons, of this series, of all that stuff, it really is not to fix our budget, to increase, what we're bringing in. None of that is really a goal or even really a thought at all. It has nothing to do with it. We truly believe that as a Christ follower, we are meant to be open-handed, living, generous people that give whatever is needed, whenever it is needed, in whatever way we can. That as followers of Christ, we ought to be known as people who are willing to say, yes, I will help. Yes, I will make a meal. Yes, I will watch your kids. Yes, I will give you money. Yeah, it's what we're supposed to have. It's what this community of believers is supposed to be. And what Darren said, God's people are the best people, and that should be true. That really should be true. So if you call yourself one of God's people, our goal should be to be the best kind of people that do take care of others, that do show the love of Christ through everything, through word, through action, through deed, through thought, all those things. So as we wrap today's win meeting, we heard all sorts of wins, which is amazing. I love hearing these stories. But I would encourage you, share with someone a win of someone was generous, and because it can be really, really good for your soul to share those stories again, because it brings up those feelings of gratitude, those feelings of excitedness around what that does for people. So, love you all. Thanks for coming to the Win Meeting, and go team.
Thanks so much for joining us for this Win Meeting. Be sure to follow us on Instagram @The Win Meeting, and to subscribe to the Corona Christian Church channel on YouTube. We'd also love to hear your wins, so send us a message on our Instagram and share with us some of the ways God is winning in your life.